Hello, and welcome to all librarians joining us today for our Scholastic Storytime After Hours event. I'm so happy to be here today and joined by our talented storytellers. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, I think it's definitely safe to say that a picture book is worth even more, which each page turn to become a compass, an opening of doors into other places, time, and space. This amazing lineup of creators each prove just how incredibly imaginative, diverse, and remarkable picture books can be. Now I'd like to welcome my wonderful colleague and lovely co-host, Emily Heddleson.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy that we can all be here together from the comfort of our own homes, enjoying another ALA. For those of you who shared such enthusiasm about this event, thank you. We miss you so much. We can't wait to see you in person again. But until then, we hope you are enjoying books, enjoying these presentations. Some lucky folks who early RSVP got a package from us. So if you got that, now's the time to open it up so you can follow along with us and enjoy some special treats. For those of you who didn't get the special package, better luck next time, and we will be putting F&G links into the chat, so you can definitely follow along, and we can't wait to share these books with you.
Emily, everyone has a special gift today. We're joined by amazing artists, and I get to introduce our first artist. Peter Reynolds is no stranger to the world of libraries. Many of you celebrate Dot Day and incorporated Happy Dreamer and the Word Collector into many story times and curriculum around the world. Now he brings us Our Table, a new story with a new protagonist, a fable for our times, one that will resonate with all kinds of family and children and speaks to the need for connection. Hi, Peter.
Hello.
Tell me, how did your personal experiences shape this book and its themes? And how did the book affect the way you engage with the world today?
Well, I grew up with a big family in a tiny house in Chelmsford, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. I was born in Canada, but grew up in this lovely little house filled with lots of people. And one of the most important places in our house was the table. Actually, we had two tables. We had the kitchen table and the dining room table. But every night we would sit around the table. On Sundays, we would sit around the big fancy table. And it was not a meal, it was an event. It was a storytelling time, and my mother, very good storyteller, and she would ask everyone to tell a story about their day. And I think that was very formational for me as a storyteller. And the idea of bringing all of these people together around this table to create a very special event, and more importantly, to create memories. And so the table is very, very important to me. And I wanted to remind everybody out there how important that table is. So I decided to write a book about Our Table. So I wrote this book, Our Table, during lockdown, when, all of us were together, which is a wonderful thing, right? We were together. And I think a lot of us rediscovered the table. We discovered making food together and baking bread. But slowly, as the months wore on, we needed to feel connected. So we turned to our devices. And even though we were together, a lot of us were actually connected elsewhere. And we were spending a lot of time on Zoom meetings. Kids were online playing games and, of course, doing their school online. And it inspired me to create this fable about a family whose dining room table mysteriously begins to shrink. And no one notices except for Violet. And Violet is the one that notices the connection. The more time that her mother, father, and brother spend on their devices, TVs, cell phones, video games, the faster their table shrinks. Violet fondly remembered the table. She remembered gathering food, cooking meals, preparing the table, lighting candles. So many stories, laughter, singing, celebrating, sharing, making memories together. Recently, though, Violet had found herself alone at the table. Her family had become busy, very busy. They had found new places to be. Violet found her father in his favorite chair in front of a big screen, bigger than Violet. She found her mother on the staircase chatting silently on her phone. Violet found her brother in his room playing games with friends she could not see. Feeling quite alone, Violet dreamed of a time when family and friends would gather at the table. Walking by the room where their quiet table stood, Violet did a double take. She noticed something had changed. Their table was smaller. The next day, it had become even smaller. By the end of the week, the table had shrunk so that it fit easily into the palm of her hand. Violet blinked. The table vanished. And of course, well, I'm not going to tell you the ending, but her quest is to bring everybody back to the table. And of course, my books are often metaphors. And this is a big metaphor about a time in our country, on our planet, when we've been drifting apart. And we need to come together and share the human feast around the table. And so I hope my book inspires all the kids that you're connected with, but also inspires you and your family to celebrate the best kind of connectivity, which is the humankind.
Peter, thank you so much. That was wonderful. And I think we really need that kind of connection now. And it's wonderful to be able to share that story and that fable with kids. So thank you. Next up, we have two wonderful creators, Alina Chau and Aida Salazar. Aida Salazar's first two books with Scholastic were middle grade novels in verse: the groundbreaking The Moon Within and the stunning and evocative Land of the Cranes. Alina Chau is new to the Scholastic family. Welcome. We're so thrilled that Aida brought her to us for this collaboration. Alina is an award-winning filmmaker and artist, and her illustrations are among those by many artists in this collective book, In the Spirit of a Dream, which includes poems celebrating American immigrants of color and is illustrated by 14 first and second generation immigrant artists. Alina and Aida, the American dream is such an expansive topic. How did you work to represent each individual story and narrative, and what are you hoping that this book does for young readers?
Hello, I'm Alina Chau. I'm the anthologist and one of the illustrators of In the Spirit of a Dream. I'm originally from Hong Kong and was sworn to be a US citizen in July 2018.
And I'm Aida Salazar. I wrote the poems for In the Spirit of a Dream. And I was born in Mexico and immigrated with my family to the US when I was a baby.
In recent years, saddened by the hatred and discrimination in racial and ethnic politics, and inspired by the fight for equality and social justice for people of colors and immigrants, I felt the need to create a book to celebrate the triumphs and stories of people of colors who are often underrepresented. Though there are countless immigrant stories to tell, of which have value. In the Spirit of a Dream highlights 13 remarkable immigrants of colors. Some of them are story well known, while others are unknown. Through this book, we hope to show how immigrants from across the globe use the belief in their dreams to challenge, to innovate, and to excel, despite the often difficult circumstances we face when coming to the United States.
So these included musicians, a surgeon, activists, writers, athletes, entrepreneurs, an astronaut, and more. So people like Cándido Camero, a conguero pioneer of Afro-Cuban jazz, who recently passed away at the age of 99 and who actually collaborated with my husband and whose oral history I translated once. Or the legendary Jim Lee, a Korean American who penciled the X-Men, the highest selling comic book of all time. Or celebrated Haitian American author and activist Edwige Danticat. And Ayub Khan Omaya, a Pakistani American brain surgeon and inventor. So Ayub holds a very special place in my heart because as we researched his life, I discovered that one of his inventions, the Omaya Reservoir, an implant that helps sufferers of brain tumors and hydrocephalus, saved my own immigrant father's life. So he's special. I wrote a biographical poem for each person or group, hoping to capture their struggles and triumphs, the impact of their lives and work, and how it affected others, but mostly to capture the essence of their humanity.
What's unique about this book is that all of the creators who work on the project are immigrants of color or descendants of immigrants of color. We sought out some of the most vibrant illustrators working in the children's literature.
Yes, and this included Bianca Diaz, Rahel Joanpor Bell, Nicole Shu, Ken Daly, Paulo D. Campos, Dion MVD, Tracy Guiteau, Fadima Azim, Vanessa Flores, Jose Ramirez, Gabby De Alessandro, and Yas Imamura.
We pair each illustrator to a different figure in order to match cultures and our visual aesthetics, all in an effort to show the beauty of the possibility of the American dreams. I illustrate the founder of Sarachi, David Tran's story. David is located in my hometown, Los Angeles. To capture the authenticity of his life, I visit the Sarachi factory in Avondale, California, so I can learn about his journey. And I also tour the factory to see how they manufacture the famous spicy sauce. In order to celebrate the contribution of everyday heroes of color in our daily lives, the cover design of the beginning and closing poems are inspired by the images of our friends and families who have paved a path of love for a hopeful future for all of us.
Yes, and through the colorful paintings and lyrical poems, the stories featured in this book are a testament not so much to the American dream itself, which doesn't always come true for some, but a testament to the resilience of the human spirit to rise above adversity and to thrive.
We hope they inspire you
as much as they do us.
This is such a unique take and original piece of work I think I've ever seen in children's literature, or I think in my experience ever. The careful, authentic, from unknown, learning new businessmen, athletes, known cellist Yo-Yo Ma, to the undocumented group of poets. I'm so grateful that children will now have this viewpoint with these amazing illustrations and the special care and attention you put to each story. Thank you for that. Thank you both. I can't wait for this book to be out in the world. I'm going to introduce our next amazing creator. I'm so excited. As we know, Bryan Collier is one of the most preeminent artists in the children's book world. His first book, Uptown, won the Coretta Scott King Award and the Ezra Jack Keeks Award, and he's continued to garner awards and accolades with books like Dave the Potter, Trombone Shorty, and his most recent timely Scholastic picture book, All Because You Matter. Bryan, with We Shall Overcome, you are telling such a distinct visual story that pairs with and expands on the lyrics of this well-known anthem. How did you craft the visual narrative to accompany the song lyrics? And how did creating this art alter the way you engage with the song today?
Thank you. Yes, it's been just an awesome privilege and an honor to be able to recreate and sort of retell this well-known song of protest throughout the years, and so familiar to all of us. But there's a unique way that I sort of heard the lyrics and heard the musicality of the text and to create a visual storyline and to tell this story, I'm so happy that, they called on me to do it. And so what I did was I took a little girl and she wakes up in the morning and she gets ready. She gets her walking shoes on and it's school time. And this is the little girl in the yellow dress, and she goes to her window. She sits on her bed and she goes to her window and looks out and she sees her friends walking to the bus stop. She's almost ready. But if you look closer, you'll see a peace sign on her bedspread. So you see, she starts in peace. And that's a metaphor I want, or a symbol that I want to run throughout doing something like this, So, we go through the book. It's We Shall Overcome. We all know this story. So, oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. And then she sees her friend. The Lord will see us through. The Lord will see us through someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. Now, what I try to do is pair the past and the present together. So I blend black and white visuals with the full color visuals, meaning that the past is represented in black and white, and these kids are walking through a park. But when we pull back, we see that we're in Birmingham, Alabama, in the park across the street from the 16th Street Baptist Church. And you see a statue of Dr. King in Ingram Park. And it's so significant to the civil rights movement that we lost 4 little girls in a bombing at that church. And in Birmingham, this was the central location for the kids to be involved in the civil rights movement and marching for freedom. And this little girl in full color with her backpack and that yellow dress, she stops and pauses because she wants the viewer to stop and pause. And she says, we're on to victory. We're on to victory. We're on to victory someday. And then the next scene is we go to the bus stop, and we know about Rosa Parks and the bus boycott. Well, they come across that. That's in black and white, and all the kids stop and they march on past that bus because everybody's marching. Nobody's riding the bus. We're protesting for equal rights. And then we have a double shot where one's in color and one's in black and white. And we see Mrs. Rosa Parks sitting on the bus, and that little girl in the yellow dress in full color, she gives her a little wave, a little nod to thank her for what she did. She sat down and she actually stood up for all of us. I wanted to tell you about how I created the book, the making and the idea behind creating a book like this. It's painted in watercolor and collage. It's what I've been doing with all the books that I've made thus far. And I wanted to pair the image of black and white images and color together in the same kind of format in the book, and the black representing the past and the color representing today and the future. And I think when you put them together, a sort of visual tension happens, So what I wanted that tension to happen because I wanted you to feel, the urgency of what the text is, even though it's so familiar to us. You still need to understand the importance of what it means, what that protest and what the fighting for liberation and freedom is about, So that's why I wanted the tension in it. And it's painted in watercolor and collage. And at the very end, that's that image of as if there were wings. She's standing in front of the little girl in the yellow dress, and she's holding up that little leaf with a face on it. But also there's a peace sign. That piece was the first image that you saw in the very beginning on her bed, when she was sitting on her bed looking out the window, and it ends in peace as well. And that image at the end is so, so important. It brings everything together. And if you look at the black and white portions of that particular image, you'll see Dr. King and all the marchers and protesters marching at the bottom of the mural that they painted. And then you'll see the color and the faces and the leaves. They're all the people that no one ever mentions, all the heroes and sheroes that no one mentions that are part of the making of this story and this song and this anthem and our history. Because we got to celebrate the unsung heroes as well, and it's miraculous to me because it's always the children that do it. That's why I love picture books, because I know where the power lies. It always lies in the children to push things forward, to get progress. It's always in the children. So, of course, these kids are the stars. They're marching. They represent all of us. You know, even if they march through adults, they're the ones that's making the change. They're the ones that's making the difference. So We Shall Overcome is about the children making the difference, and they will always be the ones to make the difference. I'm just a cheerleader. I try to get out of the way, but it's when I'm creating the book because I want you to see their power and celebrate their power. So that's what all those collage pieces and the piecing together to make something whole or make something one. That's the metaphor under all the collage. It's all these different flavors coming together to create this new dish. But it's a familiar dish. And I thank you, and I thank you for giving me the privilege to make such a book. And I hope you enjoy it.
Bryan, thank you for the privilege of sharing this book with us. The power is with the children, and all of us here believe that. And I can't wait to get this book into their hands. Thank you.
Thank you.
For our next book, we have the wonderful Carmen Agra Deedy joining us. For years, Carmen has regaled us with her incredible storytelling, from The Rooster Who Would Not Be Quiet, a tribute to the freedom of speech, to Rita and Ralph's Rotten Day, which is one of the most fun read-alouds, I think, of all time. Carmen has given us Storytime favorites, and that continues with this new title, The Children's Moon, a completely original pourquoi tale that speaks to power, truth, generosity, and finding your own place. Carmen, this tale feels so classic. What truths and experiences did you draw on to create such a universal story?
How did I come up with this story? Well, it was a Damascene moment. I was at the beach with my children and grandchildren and sons-in-law and my husband, and it was a sad time for us in a way. My father had just passed away some months ago, and it was our first family trip without him. I was walking back to the little beach house with my granddaughter, Ruby, and as we turned a corner, we looked out to the water, to the ocean, and it was about 5 or 6 in the evening, and sitting full-bellied on the horizon was this glorious, stunning moon. La Luna, the moon. I've always loved the moon, and children love the moon. There's some strange relationship between children and the moon, evidenced that day by my granddaughter, Ruby, who said, "Nana, look." Well, how could you miss it? She was showy. She was flamboyant. She was exquisite. She was La Luna. And I said, "Ruby, look how big she is this time." And it was daytime, of course, which is always so odd when we see the moon during the day. Ruby had an answer for that. My at the time she was probably about 9-year-old granddaughter, turned to me and said, "Well, Nana, you know what she is." And I said, "La Luna, the moon, yes." "Yes, but you know what they call her when she's out in the daytime?" And I said, "They who?" And this child said, "Nana, a long time ago, the Victorians, those were people who lived when Queen Victoria was on the throne." And I said, "Thank you. Yes, the Victorians. Well, they called it the children's moon." I looked back towards the sea. The children's moon? "Tell me more, you little imp." And that precious child says, "Nana, a long time ago, little kids were put in bed when the sun was still out. Can you imagine?" I said, "No, horrid. How horrible." And she said, "Well, when the moon was out, and she was out so early, like during the daytime, when even the little bitty kids could see her, they called her the children's moon. That's why she was called that." In this story, which is an original story, but framed very much like a folk tale, the moon one night hears laughter, like the sound of little silver bells. She's a little late leaving the sky that night, and she pauses. She turns to her friend, the son, whom she's about to switch places with. And she says, what was that? And he says, the children, they're waking, go on. She says, the children, yes, they'll see you, go. Well, she vanishes, leaving just sort of a little bit of moon dust behind her. But the next day, she cannot wait. It's her turn to shine. It's her turn to be in the sky as night falls. I said the next day, but I meant that next night. And when she and the sun trade places, she pauses for just a moment and she says, tell me about the children. And he says, oh, you've seen them. She looks at him and says, only in moonlight and through the shadows of their nurseries. You've seen them by day. Tell me about them. Very well. And the sun says, well, they're small and loud and fast and make a great deal of noise. Did I say that already? You said they were loud. Yeah, well, but they do love drawing pictures of me, said the sun, which makes them rather clever, I should think. And then he was gone. Oh, the moon was more intrigued than ever. The next day, she made a suggestion. She asked the sun if he would let her come into the sky for just a moment, just a breath, so she could see the children. Of course, his response is, no. The night is yours, the day is mine, and that's how it's always been, that's how it will always be, and that's proper. Well, the moon doesn't give up. She doesn't give up, and she doesn't give up. Did she win? Did he win? Did they both win? Or did we? You might know the answer if you've ever looked up into the sky on an azure day and seen the children's moon.
Well, that was really special. That was a beautiful story time hour filled with comfort, great memories, new stories to explore and discover. Thank you all so much. I want to thank all of you for joining us at this communal table where we read and discover what brings us together. You know, through books, we can find there is more that connects us than separates us. Thank you, librarians, every day for what you do, for being advocates and the heart and soul of your communities. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Bryan, Peter, Alina, Aida, Carmen, and Emily, and everyone who joined us today. Happy reading, enjoy these books, and we will see you soon. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.